Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, June 15, 2016. And this is the Senate Standing Committee on Finance. And I'd like to welcome the members who are here. We have several nominations to consider. And the nominees who are appearing apparently are on the way. But I thought, in the interest of time, that you may notice that there are non-appearances on the agenda, and with your indulgence, I think we can start with those and then go to the people who are appearing, if that's okay with the committee members. So let's begin. And the first is Samuel J. Casella as a member of the State Board of Real Property Tax Services.
Is that a paid question?
No. The question is that a paying position? And the answer is no. Any other questions? Senator Larkin moves. Senator Marchione seconds. Negative votes? Okay, it's set then. Next, Catherine Aiken La Bombard is a member of the Lake George Park Commission.
I'd like to move that nomination.
Senator Little would like to move.
Second.
Senator Larkin seconds. Any discussion? Okay, negative votes. The nomination is moved. The next I would like to take as a block, if we could, and these are members of the Public Health and Health Planning Council. And you can see the names: Judy Baumgartner, John D. Bennett Jr., Howard Berliner, Angel Alfonso Gutierrez, Jeffrey Kraut, Scott LaRue, Nilda Soko, Theodore Strange, and Patricia Ye. Do we have a motion for all of them to be considered as one? Senator Valesky moves. Yes, Senator. No, these are non-appearances.
Okay, no problem.
And they're not paid.
And they're not paid. Yes, they're not paid. So, Senator Perkins, would you like to second?
Of course, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any negative votes? Then all of these nominees are advanced. Yes, Senator Bonisic has a question.
Yeah, I'm not talking about this commission, but those that
Could I have some order, please?
those that are serving on the city university, is that deemed to be part of credits for pension? Qualified for
Could it, down at the end of the table, could I have some order, please? Senator Bonisic is asking a question, and we need to find out the answer. The question is whether the people who are serving on the as trustees on the City University of New York board, whether that is...
It may not be a paid position, or they get reimbursed expenses, but do they get credit towards their pension while serving? That term. That's my question.
I believe it's... I don't know.
Well,
it's not paid, I don't...
So something you could check.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not asking.
I don't know the exact answer to that question, but we can check that.
We'll get it. Thank you.
You have to be in pay status.
Say again?
You have to be in pay status to earn pension. You should actually be an employee to earn pension.
I know you're wrong. I know the list.
You know the answer.
No, I don't know the answer to this group, but I know a group that doesn't get paid and gets pension credit. So don't say you have to get paid.
Okay, thank you. Senator
Senator
Johnson.
Johnson. Thank you. Okay, I didn't know if you could see down as far because I'm waving like that.
He has the floor. You have the floor now.
If in fact you're receiving a stipend, you can pay into the pension fund if you choose, thereby giving you credit. But it is not, it's not mandatory. It's by choice. How do I know that? Because I served for 10 years on the Apprenticeship and Training Council, and I chose to put money into the pension program. And for the 10 years that I served, it gave me 1 month each year that I served. So yes, you do, if you choose. But because the stipend is so small, most people don't bother to do it. At that time, I had no pension at all. So in my best interest to do that.
Thank you for that answer. So, our appearances have appeared, and I'd like to call forward Basil V. Sagos as Commissioner of Environmental Conservation.
Thank you, Senator. Good to see you.
Good to see you also. I thought we could start by you giving a brief presentation to the committee members and then answering any questions that they may have.
I'd love to. Thank you, Senator. And good morning, good afternoon, rather, everybody. Senator Young, Senator Krueger, and members of the Finance Committee, thank you for inviting me to appear before you today. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself and to discuss the vision that Governor Cuomo and I share for the DEC. And I'm certainly honored that the governor nominated me for this critical post. So in many ways, I've been preparing for this role since I was a small boy, growing up fishing on Long Island Sound, catching crayfish in my backyard, spending lots of time outdoors. The more I was exposed to the outdoors, the more it became apparent to me that the earth was out of balance. The plight of disadvantaged communities and the scourge of pollution drew me towards a career in environmental protection. Simply put, I want to leave the world a better place. After college and during law school, I worked at the Natural Resources Defense Council in New York on urban environmental issues. I was also a law clerk at President Clinton's White House Council on Environmental Quality. My first job after law school was at Riverkeeper as its chief investigator, where I focused on environmental enforcement, and it was there that I worked with then Attorney General Cuomo on a large inland oil spill case and secured a $25 million settlement for the community of Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I then worked on the business side of the environment, serving as vice president for business development at Hugo New Corporation, which is a clean tech private equity company. That position certainly helped me gain an appreciation for the role of the private sector in environmental protection. The pull to public service was irresistible. I joined Governor Cuomo's team in 2012, serving first as Assistant Secretary and then Deputy Secretary for the Environment. And in those roles, I advised the Governor on environmental policy and oversaw the operations of the state's environmental agencies. I'm proud of the 4 years that I spent with the Governor and what I helped him accomplish. Certainly working closely with you, we have positioned the state as a national leader on the environment. My experience as an officer in the Army Reserve has taught me valuable lessons in leadership and how to carry myself with integrity and honor. I live my life true to these values every day, and I bring this to the helm of the DEC. My management style is to be forward-leaning and nimble, to promote teamwork and be hands-on. We must work collaboratively with federal, state, and local leaders if we're to effectively position the state for the long term, especially on threats such as water quality and climate change. We must be responsive to communities, businesses, and concerned citizens. I've stressed customer focus, and I'm empowering our regional directors to make sure we have strong local leadership and accountability. So my core priorities as Commissioner will include confronting climate change, addressing the state's tremendous water infrastructure needs, focusing on remediating contamination in drinking water supplies, prioritizing environmental justice to ensure all communities have access to air, open space, and water, and growing the rich legacy of hunting and fishing in New York. I believe firmly what's good for the environment is good for the economy and vice versa. I'm committed to making the agency more responsive to the business community, and we must continue to modernize agency operations. These efforts are vital if we're to continue to protect the state's environment. In over 4 years of working for the state, I've learned how important it is to stay aggressive and to look for new and innovative ways to protect the environment, and I certainly look forward to working with you all over the years ahead. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I'm honored to take any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that we have a list. Senator Marcelino would like to start.
Yes, thanks for coming, and I appreciate your service for our state. Recently, we had a press conference led by the chair of the Senate Environmental Committee, Senator O'Mara. I've joined him in that, past chair for many years of that particular committee. We were talking about removing lead from the water that has been discovered in school buildings and other places. What role could the DEC play? Because we're getting some blowback and pushback from the school system, from the city and from other places, saying it's too expensive, we can't afford it, it's an unfunded mandate. My comment is I don't think we can afford not to. What help can DEC be in monitoring the water supply to our children?
So I can tell you, Senator, as a parent, I certainly think about that very closely. At the DEC, our jurisdiction is somewhat limited when it comes to regulating indoor drinking water supplies. DEC's involvement with lead pollution would typically be outside of a structure, lead pollution sites, air pollution, and things of that nature. When it comes to sampling indoors, largely the purview of either the DOH or the EPA. I could tell you this, whereas our jurisdiction will be somewhat limited in indoor sampling, we would certainly be happy to help point various schools and school officials towards programs that are available at the federal level to do voluntary testing. Now, if a school is on a publicly owned treatment work, in other words, if they have their own system of water, then they are a regulated entity and must take samples. If they're off of that system, if they have their such a well, or if they're on if they're on a regulated system, say at the state level or municipal level, then they would not have to do that sampling. But we can help to at least point the schools in the right direction, and to the extent that any contamination is outside the school, in the environment, anywhere, and certainly with DEC's jurisdiction would come into play.
If the school is to follow, if the school gets its water supply from a well, or a well system from a water authority, maybe the Suffolk County Water Authority, Nassau County Water Authority, County X Water Authority, wouldn't the DEC have the ability to go in and test the water coming from that authority, at least to determine that the water going into the building was safe, and if there's lead discovered in the building, the water that's coming out of the building piping or plumbing has contamination, at least you're focused on where the problem is located.
Right. Senator, I believe that's really is the function of the Department of Health. That's what the Department of Health does in terms of testing of municipal supplies. If the testing of a municipal supply is showing no lead contamination, but lead contamination is coming out of the pipes of the school, then the problem is probably within the school system, and that's where frankly, any retrofits would need to take place. So it really isn't, I don't need to pass the buck entirely to the sister agency, but in fact, that is their jurisdiction. And we would certainly be happy to help push certain schools into the appropriate programs and work with our colleagues at DOH.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker will be Senator Nozzolio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
I just wish to, first of all, compliment you on your attention to a number of important environmental issues in the region that I am honored to represent. I represent the Finger Lakes region, a beautiful place with a very important water infrastructure, if you will, that we see within that area over history. A lot of large landfills had been present, and the department's attention to the regulatory role is extremely necessary and appreciated. Your regional director in Region 8, Paul Amato, is second to none. And I'd like your view, though, on what you see for the short-term and long-term. The landfill are generally believing, and the communities are believing, that they are at their capacities or soon will be. Looking forward, what is your view and the department's role in implementing the kinds of things that you may be recommending?
Well, I tell you, Senator, I got a briefing this morning, actually, in the order issue at Senator Meadows, and that's something that I know the community is focused on very closely right now. You may be hearing this, but I am happy to report that at least some of the odor concerns are being abated. We've been working very closely with the landfill and with the community over the last few months. As to capacity, I know they have a permit for several more years. They're going to have to go through a permit process, a full permit process, if they intend to continue any operations beyond that. We will be an open partner in that. I certainly want to solve the immediate issues of odor and any other issues that are identified. I don't have any views as to where the waste is coming from, other than making sure that when it gets there, it's being handled appropriately. And we were unsatisfied with the level of controls up to this point.
And I thank you for that additional attention. You and I have spoken about this, and again, your department has been very responsive under your leadership. I want that to continue, certainly, and that although I won't be around beyond the end of the year in terms of this capacity, I certainly I'm going to live there the rest of my life, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Please feel free to call me whenever you see it.
Appreciate it, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is Senator Little.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to repeat the questions I asked at the ENCON committee, but I do think that your 4 years in the governor's office and Secretary of Environment is great preparation for being commissioner, and thank you for making this transition and for your accessibility and your real knowledge of what goes on in the Adirondacks and your intention and your efforts to balance the economy and the environment as the governor is trying to do in the Adirondack Park. So thank you, congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Commissioner. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you, Senator.
I echo the sentiments of my colleagues that have talked about the responsiveness of you personally and your team. Obviously, none of the issues that we bring to your attention are simple. These are very complex issues, oftentimes generational issues that we're bringing to your attention. And looking forward to being supportive today. I represent the city of Buffalo, as you well know, the city of Lackawanna, the town of Cheektowaga, and there are very unique environmental issues in each of the respective communities that I represent. And I just wanted to give you and your team again credit for intervening on a personal level and engaging. And I think the conversations and the communication that you've demonstrated in your capacity thus far has really put you in a position to continue that leadership. And I'm looking forward to working with you specifically on some of these cleanup initiatives that we have as it pertains to the polluted waterway in Cheektowaga and the Buffalo, the remediation of the massive 1,000-acre site of the Bethlehem Steel, former Bethlehem Steel site. And again, looking forward to being forward because I think you've earned it in the time that you've been in your position thus far.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Ritchie.
Commissioner, I just want to make a couple comments. First of all, I've had an opportunity to work with you in this position, but also in your previous position. And I just want to take a couple minutes, like some of my other colleagues, to point out the responsiveness and the fact that many times when we call, almost immediately a problem that looks like it could be fixed and is fixed. Yesterday was a perfect example of it. We had a local municipality who was really concerned about a huge event that was going on and had really not got the answer they were looking for. So within a couple hours of calling your office, it was fixed to their delight. But you're, I think, exactly what people hope someone in that position will be, somebody who pick up the phone and answer when we call when we have a real crisis going on. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Ritchie. Senator O'Hara, who's chair of the ENCON committee.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Sagos, for being here. Thank you for appearing before the ENCON committee last week, where you were polite enough to answer questions for about an hour and a half, and I appreciate your openness and responsiveness. I've appreciated working with you over the last couple of years in my capacity as chair of ENCON. I look forward to that relationship continuing, and look forward to your nomination being confirmed on the Senate floor shortly.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator O'Hara.
Appreciate it.
Senator Marchione.
Commissioner, I just also want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues to say thank you so very much. I'm a senator with District Calls.
I know.
And what a critical, difficult time has been, and you and your staff have just been there, and not for a day or for a week, but now for months, in answering questions for people, being on site, going from personal home to personal home with
Senator Martins. No?
Good afternoon, thank you. Thank you very much. I represent the district on the North Shore of Long Island, and just wanted to thank you and your team for your responsiveness, certainly in addressing many of our concerns. As you're aware, we have, between Nassau and Suffolk County, over 3 million people who derive their drinking water from below the ground where they live, where they work, and certainly there's been a lot of things over the years that have been poured into the ground that we have to be very careful of. We have this miracle of a bubble of fresh water surrounded by salt water under Long Island, and the idea that we're finally getting around to actually figuring out what the limits are, what the process is, and taking a holistic approach towards protecting that sole source aquifer is something that I truly appreciate. Obviously, the nitrification issues, dealing with surface waters and those impacts on marshes and the shores around Long Island are things that are very sensitive to us. There's probably no more sensitive area in the state, and certainly everyone has sensitive areas in their districts. But when you consider the number of people who live on that island, the surface water issues, as well as the drinking water issues, I just appreciate the fact that you have been accessible, your team has been accessible. It's been great working with Julie Tai and with your regional director. And so looking forward to continuing to work with the department and looking forward to voting for you for your confirmation.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Breslin?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's easy to join the chorus. It's an enjoyable day for you, Commissioner, and I congratulate you. I found the Commissioner refreshingly open, honest, direct, and quick to get back, and major subjects, including but not limited to obviously in New Albany or the oil spills, and the transportation, because of oils, through and to stops in Port of Albany, which have always been easy to get a hold of and more active. I appreciate that, and I respect what the department has done with both you and your predecessor, Joe Martinez. So keep it up.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you very much. Senator Bonison?
Yes, first of all, congratulations for taking this job. I think it's going to be a sacrifice and a tremendous challenge as commissioner. I have seen many commissioners come and go, and there's no doubt you will be a commissioner. And so maybe as acting commissioner, you work very hard to get to commissioner. But I will say to you that what I have found over the years is that, and I don't mean to be critical today of anything you do or your reputation or your experience and what you will do in the future, but many times a commissioner of DEC becomes an enabler of a political agenda of a governor. And I know you work for that, and I would hope that you would be independent in your thinking. Your decisions would be based on science, so to speak, and you would always try to do the right thing for the people. But I probably have 10 areas, being with DEP, we deal with them, the reservoirs, we deal with economic development in our districts down in Orange County. The builders and contractors always complain about DEC taking their time, unnecessary regulations, running up the expenses, and the timeline of not getting prompt decisions hurts them. And the DEC always wanted to be lead agency, where it would make sense for the municipality to be lead agency. And I can go on and on and on and on and talk to you about 10 areas. But the one area that I think will be a crisis for all of us will be clean water. I see old infrastructure in this state. In Hoosick Falls with Senator Marchione, we had an incident in the city of Newburgh, and those municipalities can't afford to take care of that stuff. So we have to partner of a way to have a fund. I know there's federal money in super funds, but that, I think, will be one of the biggest challenges facing them as we go forward, plus a myriad of other things that will be equally important. But I wish you well, want to work with you, And we'll be calling on you often, and I thank you.
Door's always open.
But Julie's a constant tie. I mean, I've seen many DEC commissioners come and go, but she's pretty good.
She's the not-so-secret weapon.
She's usually your wing man, she's your wing lady.
And I would agree with you, Senator, the water issue has already been the most challenging issue I'm dealing with, and will continue to be so. But I want to tip my hat to the Senate and the legislature in general for helping us to boost the water infrastructure fund that we created last year, doubled it to $400 million this year. So it's not a solution yet. We haven't solved everything, but it's a good start. So thank you for your help on that.
Thank you, Senator. Great segue into Senator Larkin, who represents Newburgh.
Commissioner, thank you for taking this job. Challenge is a great thing. As you say, even though you were in the JAG Corps. So, but the point I want to make is, we have a major issue in the city of Newburgh. The call to your office in New Paltz, immediately we structured a meeting between DEP and the city, your office, the city, and some of the new developers that were coming in. Right now, we've come to a very fine conclusion. Cooperation between the public and private sector, and the guidance that you people gave to them on site. And it wasn't just one hop in there and back. So we're having another meeting next week, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate that, because we're talking about 800 jobs are in the belly of this project. So thank you very much, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you, Senator. Good to see you.
Thank you, Senator Larkin. Senator Krueger.
Oh, thank you. Nice to see you again. We had a nice chance to talk privately, and I appreciated your input. And we have 10 nominees today that we're interviewing, so I almost feel guilty starting to ask some additional questions, but I did have a list, and I won't go through it. We'll make that appointment, and I will meet with you as the new commissioner on it. How about that? But because several of my other colleagues brought up water, and you can't help but notice the Hoosick Falls issues that Kathy Mercier already talked about. So DEC had entered into a consent agreement with the companies thought through the cause of the contamination.
Yes.
And in your consent decree, there was an assumption that there would be responsibility for cleanup somehow, but it doesn't explicitly require the companies. Oh.
No.
It's all right, it's all right, it's all right.
I'm sorry, the consent decree doesn't actually explicitly talk about the companies having to pay for the cleanup. So now that we know, or every day it seems like we get the numbers and it gets a little scarier, is there a plan to hold the companies who are apparently responsible for the contamination to have to take care of the cleanup? Because actually, I think Senator Ross, I got a follow-up question also. Who pays?
Absolutely.
Wasn't you maybe Senator?
Well, I can tell you that we, since declaring PFOA hazardous substance and listing the parts of Hoosick Falls as Superfund sites, we have put that case on the same track as the hundreds of other cases before it, where we will effectively characterize the spill, identify the company responsible for it, put them on the hook for the investigation, and once the investigation is complete, remediation begins. The company is going to be on the hook for all that. If for whatever reason we are unsatisfied with the pace of the cleanup, or the sufficiency of the cleanup, or that the extent of it is not as aggressive as we would have hoped, we then fall back on our Superfund authority to spend our own money and go after the polluter in court to recover it. So in no way will the taxpayer be on the hook for the cleanup in Hoosick Falls. That's going to come out of the company. The process is longer than we would all like. We have the consent order in place right now, 2 consent orders, Cinco Bend and Honeywell. That will require them to put forth a record of decision and a cleanup plan, remedial investigation. Once those are in place, subject to public comment, that will initiate all the cleanup that we need to see. We're not waiting for that. In some respects, we're already doing a lot of it. We're doing some of the investigation. We've made some good progress in the last few months, but the company will be paying for all of it.
Thank you. I'm not going to take the committee's time. I will just get it over on record that I'll have more questions. I look forward to working with you and new official commissioner.
Thank you, Senator. So,
Thank you, Senator Krueger. And never surprising that you always have more questions.
And I'm never going to run out of them.
I know.
So true.
I know you wanted to go last before me, but Senator Griffiths raised his hand.
I raised it earlier, but I know it's tough to see now.
hey, Senator.
Yeah, good to see you. Senator Hassan Thompson said you look like a real Navy guy, but it's good with the case, so he does have Navy people on his staff.
Good.
A lot of challenges.
Go Army. Go Army. Sorry. Go Army. Senator Little here. Maybe.
A lot of challenges. We appreciate that you've been very helpful both on policy and constitution issues, because both of them obviously absorb a lot of our time and efforts. I think if we look at the challenges, the accessibility is very important. You've been there. I hope for a long time the department looked at a hindrance rather than a department that was willing to reach out and help. The predecessor began to change that, so that you hopefully continue in that direction. And I'm very satisfied with all of the efforts that we have undertaken lately. As I said, there are many challenges, across the state relative to many issues and many interagency issues. So I hope you'll just continue to do as you indicated. You'll be not only accessible, but will come out to the communities, because I think it's imperative that you are physically on the ground throughout the different parts of the state. I know it's tough, and you've got a lot of things to handle from a policy perspective too. But I appreciate your service and your good work, and support you wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Senator. I'll certainly see you out in the field. No doubt.
Thank you. Senator Squadron.
Thank you very much. Just two brief questions.
Senator.
I appreciate the opportunity. The first is, there's been a lot of discussion about water, and this is also appropriately. Just for my own clarity, it's a very simple question. I know there's a Department of Health role and a DEC role.
Right.
In terms of figuring out from sort of whatever this point, whenever this got started until residents started becoming aware at the end of last year, who's the lead investigator that came top, what happened and how from a government agency? Is it health or DEC?
Sorry, I lost what you were saying. The lead investigator on
what happened until it was discovered and residents were made aware at the end of last year.
Right.
Who's investigating what happened there? Who's the lead investigator?
But I'm not sure there's Senator a lead investigator per se. I can tell you that since I took the helm at DEC in November, we've been aggressively working with our sister agencies, with the federal government, local government. We've made enormous progress since then. The governor has rightly identified the need to look more intensely at interagency water contamination issues statewide, not just Hoosick Falls, but statewide, how we make decisions, where are the gaps in decisions, how can we apply ourselves more effectively and efficiently. We launched the Rapid Response Task Force in February, which is designed to do just that. There are other situations statewide where we need to react quickly and in cooperation with multiple agencies. That is underway right now. That I'm co-chair of it along with the Department of Health Commissioner. And we have 5 or 6 other agencies that are participating. So, on the one hand, we will be reacting quickly and more effectively to issues as they emerge. On the other hand, we will look for opportunities for policy improvements through this task force. So this will roll out in the next few months.